Has anyone ever inspired you to change your life that made you more fulfilled? Well, as a leader in your business and in your community, what are those questions that you ask yourself on a daily basis? It's these questions that we explore on Inspiring Women. I am your host, Betty Collins, and I'm a certified public accountant, a business owner, and a community leader who partners with others who want to achieve remarkable results for themselves and their organizations. I am here to help inspire you to a positive step forward for a better life. So we were really fortunate to have Randy Gerber with us from Gerber Clarity, who helps that first generation business owner really come and launch, grow, be successful. And then there comes a point in time where it's a success, and maybe you give it to the next generation, maybe you sell it to the next generation. So today we have with us Brady Ware Capital, who is going to talk about selling your business in today's environment. They're as optimistic as Randy is about the 22 marketplace. But before we get into things with Brady Ware Capital, the lessons and the takeaways from Randy when he talked on my podcast was, first, you probably really do need to look who you're working with. He took that time to do that so that he wasn't just servicing any client because he had to at that time for economics. He also talks about growing your biggest asset. And a lot of times it's not paying off your house. We think about that. Really, it's when you're a small business owner, it's that stock you have in the business. He was very intentional, and you should be as well, about talking with your client, asking questions, inquiring so he knows where they're at, where they're engaged, where they're struggling, where they're succeeding. We talked a lot about in that podcast of the misconceptions business owners have. They chase way too much revenue too fast. And then there's different types of business owners. They're either grinders, they get lucky, it launches, but the strategic business owner is the one who has the success generally. And of course, this is Inspire Women. We talked about women and, women-owned business owners. They're a lot of times more empathetic, but they've struggled through the pandemic for sure, whether it's been daycare issues, the industries they were in, the reshifting and rethinking. So they really have had to double down on alignment. In fact, what I loved he said, and you should take this as, we keep talking about this great resignation. It really is a great time for realignment. That's the difference between someone who's really negative and someone who's really positive, because that says opportunity. Great, you can be resigned to the great resignation, or you can have realignment. And part of the success of building and growing that business is being present and positive. And that success, can be happy and having peace in your life, leading and being a thought leader, being successful in general. And then he ended up, we talked about outcomes and shifting your thinking to outcomes versus time. So it was just very insightful as he talked about that first generation. So now we go into, you've built the business, you're successful, you've got a second, maybe you're almost a third generation. What are you going to do with it? And that's where Brady Ware Capital will come in, and we're going to talk with them today. We've been starting this year with some different people and that are kind of really in an optimistic mode. And one of those was Randy Gerber with Gerber Financial, and he's a guy who loves the marketplace. I mean, he is optimistic for 2022, even though we all still kind of live on the edge because of 20 and 21, right? And we all think, man, we could go back to 2019, but that's not what we're going to do. Instead, we're going to head into 22. And he was really optimistic. So I encourage you to listen to that podcast. It was about a lot of times that first generation business is who he really works with. But I have a guest today that works with not just first generation, second and third. And, the whole point of owning a business, and for Betty Collins as a shareholder of Brady Ware and Schoenfeld, is one day I'll sell it, right? One day I have stock and I can pass it on to somebody instead of working for someone all my life. And so today I want to introduce you to someone who helps businesses do that when they get to that point of selling or wanting to sell or wanting to buy or wanting, quote, financing to go big, all those things. So I'm with today the president of Brady Ware Capital. who of course is related to Brady Ware and Schoenfeld. And I'm going to let him talk a little bit. It's Cliff Bishop. He has a great team around him. I would tell you to go to his website. He will direct you there to see his team of seasoned people on selling businesses. And we're going to find out if 2022 is a good time to buy and sell. He's going to go into that. So Cliff, welcome today. And just tell us a little bit about you and Brady Ware Capital.
Sure, buddy. Thanks for having me. It's good to join you on this. Brady Ware Capital, just a quick overview. It is related to Brady Ware and Schoenfeld, but we focus exclusively on transactions, mostly helping sellers sell all or part of a business. We also do some financing, growth capital, and we work with some companies on growth strategies, helping them acquire other businesses. But there's a group of 7 of us. We have over 150 years of experience with that group. And what we've really found over the years is, that the successful transaction is not defined just by the dollar amount, which is always important, and we focus on that, but it's also the other things, including personal goals, the legacy of the business, protecting employees, and things like that. So in addition to being financial people, we're also consultants and psychologists sometimes, and really enjoy working with entrepreneurs and business owners to find out what works best for them.
Yes, and I've done several transactions with Cliff. We've worked through that. And when he says we're sometimes counselors, they are always counselors. It's a big deal to sell your business or to buy one, And so that's where Brady Ware Capital gets you through this process. So what I really want to know, though, and my audience wants to know, and the whole world wants to know really is this a good time to sell your business?
Yes, I think it is. And of course, it depends on the specific business. But 2021 was an exceptional year. We see all the fundamentals being really strong for 2022. Quite simply, Betty, there's just a lot of capital in the market looking for good companies. Public companies have record amounts of cash. Many private companies have high levels of cash due to good operations, but also to funds that they receive from the PPP program. Private equity groups have almost $1 trillion of uninvested money that they're looking to put to work. And all of these companies, if you're going to grow right now, it's kind of hard to do it organically. They're looking to acquisitions as a main component of that growth strategy. So you've got all this money out there looking for businesses and ways to put it to work.
Absolutely. I know as an accountant, as a CPA who looks at financials all day long, the balance sheets are solid. And so it's obviously a great time to sell that really good balance sheet. But when you have a good balance sheet, it's a good time to buy as well. It's not just, let's talk beyond the balance sheet. I mean, what are the most important factors that drive the valuation of a business?
Yeah, that's a good question, Betty. And there's a lot of things that are going to drive the ultimate valuation, but a couple of things jump out. One is growth, and it's not always just historical growth. So a buyer is typically looking to double the size of a business in a 3 to 5 year period if they're going to put a good value on it. So they're going to look at the historical growth of the business, but more importantly, they're going to look at what is the potential to grow it once they acquire it. Many of our clients are to the point in their business where they haven't focused on growth recently. They built a very strong business that's very profitable, accomplishes all the goals that they have, and to kind of restart it and invest more money and time and effort, they don't always do that. But what's really important, and we work with entrepreneurs to do this, is to lay out a growth strategy for the people that might be acquiring it. So for instance, if you can say, hey, this is where we are now, we could expand geographically, or we could expand our product line, or we could add more salespeople. Those are the things that you really need to do to get the interest from potential buyers and maximize your valuation. The second thing that we see that no matter what the industry that is really important is the predictability, and I call it the recurring or consistent revenue. So tech companies, usually have very high multiples. It's because they're technology, but it's really because most of their clients are sending payments in monthly or annually. And it's the same clients month after month, year after year. So the more predictable and recurring revenue you have with a large customer base is going to drive valuations. There's other things that go into it, but I think those two are the key things that some people don't always focus on.
Yeah, they also don't. What I find is they don't focus on the team, everyone thinks I'm selling my goodwill or, hey, I can make money, but the team that's in place is also usually pretty huge when you're buying and selling. And it definitely, if you have that team that you've developed, that you can be the business owner and not be there because this team is so good, right? Um, Now, will they stay with the new buyer is always a question,
Absolutely.
but at the same time, that team is a crucial thing to be building when you're looking at, when I sell one day, I really want a good group that is there with me and that could stay on without me. And people kind of overlook that, sometimes. But
I'm
go
sorry if
ahead.
I could add to that, because I think that's a great point. Is building a team is extremely important because most of the owners that are selling want to either exit the business or at least reduce their involvement in it.
Right.
And most of the buyers don't have a lot of people on the bench that are going to parachute in and run the business. They want to supplement what's already there with that management team. So,
Hmm.
the perfect scenarios where the owner has kind of worked his or herself out of their job.
Right. So, I would say to business owners, a lot of times they want to be the smartest one in the room. They want to be the guy. They want to be the gal. They are it. They are it. But man, if you're looking at the value of your business, it's also really not just you. It's the value of you not being there. It's the value of that team that you could sell and have be in place. And it makes that buyer so much easier to come in. Right. So, but
Absolutely.
we're making it sound so easy that you just do these things and it all happens. What is the toughest part of the selling process that you've experienced with business owners?
Yeah, I think without a doubt, it's the whole due diligence process. So while it's a
Mhm.
very good time to be selling right now, and there's a lot of money out there, it's not easy money. And what we've seen over certainly the last 5 years or less is that no matter what the size of the deal, the amount of due diligence now is more like it used to be if a public company was selling.
Yeah.
So the buyer is going to bring in outside accountants. They're going to bring in business strategists. They're going to do background checks. Sometimes they bring in psychologists to say, hey, do testing on the employees and everything. Is this a company that's open to new ideas and things like that? So it's really a gauntlet, and it's for two reasons. I mean, the buyer really wants to know those things, but the second reason is they also use the due diligence to try and beat the price down.
Sure.
So being organized and due diligence, having all the numbers together, making sure that it's we have the experience to know what the due diligence looks like, and if you're well prepared and you're aggressive in that, you can usually get through it unscathed. But it is a process, and every business owner we worked with said, "Wow." When we get done, they say, "You told me that it was going to be tough, but I had no idea what you meant."
Yeah. I mean, these are people coming in and scrutinize everything you've ever done and built as a business, and now it's being completely scrutinized. And on top of that, as you and I have done some deals together, and I've been part of a merger and acquisition, one of the things that is really tough in the selling aspect is just, as much as they want to go, they don't know that they can't go. Letting go and wanting to keep staying is also one of those things. That's where the counseling comes in, right? That's where you really
Right.
play a role too. So it's not all just numbers and easy stuff and EBITDA. There's so much to it. But in today's market where there is a lot of capital and there's a lot of options and there's buyers who are still very, hey, let's keep this going. There's sellers who want to maybe get out, but they still like being in the game. What are options? What options does an owner have when they're considering the sales and transaction of the business?
Well, Betty, this is the fun part to me because I think most business owners, or a lot of business owners, envision that when they sell the business, they're going to call their biggest competitor and they're going to take over, and that the owner's going to clear out their desk and right into the sunset. And that rarely happens. There's all kinds of options that don't require you to just leave. Now, some people, if they want to exit, we can do that. But most of them, and probably over half the deals we've worked on in the last couple of years, involve selling maybe 80% of the company, retaining 20% or something in that range, and then focusing on helping the new owner grow the company. But they can get rid of a lot of the things that maybe weren't so much fun. So, for example, if the owner wants to exit, we can help them with that. But most of them, and probably over half the deals we've worked on in the last couple of years, involve selling maybe 80% of the company, retaining 20% or something in that range, and then focusing on helping the new owner grow the company. So all the HR can be turned over so they don't have to worry about employee problems or hiring or when there's disputes on the floor. They may not have to deal with the banking or the insurance or regulatory, environmental type things. So we've seen the entrepreneurs be able to focus on what they really like, which might be new business development, might be product development, might be focusing on trade shows and developing a bigger network. And then they also have the capital of their new partners. So they're not doing it with their own money. They're not signing any bank notes or anything like that.
Right.
They're using somebody else's money to really grow the business. And we've had, now I will say not all entrepreneurs are good employees. So it doesn't always work. But many people we've dealt with have really become reinvigorated and said, boy, I thought I wanted to retire and get the heck out of this business where I'm having a lot of fun now and doing the things I like. And I still have my identity with the business.
Right.
So that's one option, and then there's other options other than selling completely. There's transitioning of other family members. And, we can help put together the financial roadmap for that. There's management buyouts, which, a lot of times honestly sound good, but it's hard to come up with the money for the management, but we've worked on that. And then there's also the ESOP options. So really counseling the owners, and it's really fun the first time we go in to meet with somebody and saying, hey, if you want to sell, let's consider all these options and figure out what's best for you and your business and your family.
Well, I can tell you that it isn't just how do I say this? It isn't just one size fits all. There are so many different ways you can do and sell and stay and leave, and you guys do some great stuff and get creative, and I've been part of those times where that happens, and then everybody wins in the end. Now, you've really talked about what you should do, what's supposed to do. But let's talk about what you're not supposed to do, or what are some of the typical business owners? They make mistakes when it comes to selling their business. What are those things that they fall into that can be avoided?
Okay. Yep, another good question. I think the biggest thing is focusing only on price versus all the things that go into a deal. And as I said earlier, price is always important, and I don't want to diminish that. But it's not the only thing. And we try and encourage the seller to understand what's going to make you live happily ever after. Is it just the money? No, probably not. It's the lifestyle. It's other things that go along with that. But when you start negotiating a deal, a lot of owners focus only on the price. And if they don't have somebody like us involved or their attorney involved, they miss some of the key deal points. I'm sorry. Is the money all going to be up front? Is it going to be paid over time? What types of guarantees is the seller going to have to give to the people coming in to buy? One of the buyers that we got to know pretty well has already said, I'll let your seller name the price, whatever they want, as long as I get to make the terms. So, if they want $10 million, fine. You give me 20 years to pay them that, we got a deal. So that the point is, the mistake that people make is to not look at the all the terms that go into the deal. And then I think that the second thing would be what you referenced earlier would be not building out a full team. Saying, hey, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to run the sales. I'm going to have all the relationships. I'm going to run the operations. And it's really the opposite thing that you need to do. It's counterintuitive. You need to work yourself out of those things to build value. But those mistakes are pretty typical because, entrepreneurs are wired that way. Type A personalities, aggressive, which are all good things, but they need to be tempered a little bit in a process.
Right. One of the things when I deal with clients, when they kind of are getting to this point, they start talking about it. And I'm a CPA. I'm not a broker. I'm not a consultant in this. But the one thing I say to them is, would you buy you? And you got to really take that question to heart and look and go, would you buy you? And a lot of times they'll go, no, that's why I want to sell. So don't, if you're just going to focus on price, you're going to focus on what you get. You have to also say, would I buy me? And fix those things that would make it differently, that would make you want to buy you. Not always an easy conversation because they have to really be honest and open with themselves and look in the mirror. But sometimes they don't want to face that. And my mom always said, the sale price is what someone's willing to pay at the end of the day. And so when you're too focused on price and you're too focused on what am I going to get now, you could really lose, especially a lifetime of hard work. So you don't want to be in those mistakes, making those things. Just my common sense approach, Cliff. I'm not,
Well said.
I'm not a big broker like Cliff Bishop, president of Brady Ware Capital. So, but a lot of times people don't want to. They want to sell, but they want to sell like, oh, right now, let's just get this done. I'm tired. Instead of going, I probably should have prepared for this moment, because it's kind of like you're almost resigning to, I'm going to retire and now I'm old, or I'm giving up. But really it is, you're preparing to sell a business to be the most successful sale of your time, of your lifetime work, or even maybe a second and third generation. So to effectively sell something and really get that optimization for you, your family, whatever it is, what is it that the business owner needs to do to prepare? And then the second question on that is, what's the kind of the timeline? Is it 1 year, 6 months, 2 days, 5 years? Those are something that I think my audience needs to hear you talk about.
No, that's exactly right. You hit it on the head. I mean, I think the high level comment would be that you really want to start the process when you still have gas left in the tank. Where there's still enthusiasm for the business, and I'll call it a runway, where the owner doesn't say I have to be out of here in 90 days, or there's health problems that necessitate them leaving. So the enthusiasm shows in the process. So if somebody waits too long, that becomes clear. And like you said, it seems like a fire sale, and take this thing off my hands and let me go to the beach. We've done those transactions, but that's not preferable. The biggest the biggest thing that can be done is to build a good team, which we've already hit on, but also build out the financial statements. And this goes back to also what we talk about, the due diligence. You have no idea the depth and how deep people are going to dig on the financial statements. For instance, almost every buyer is going to ask not just what your top and bottom line is, but where are you making your money? So give me revenue and gross profit by product. Let us see revenue and gross profit by customer. So if your company may have a customer that's 50% of revenue, the buyer wants to know, well, is that 50% of gross profit, or 20% or 80%? Right. And most businesses don't have a handle on that. So now they can get it fairly easily. So if they put together a team and work with their CPA and other people, they can get those numbers. I think, and then also building the same thing on the legal side, making sure that everything's in order with their attorney, and all the records and things like that. So the timing can be different. We've met with some companies that are ready to go. You meet with them and say, wow, your numbers are great. You have a good command of your business. You've put together a good M&A type team. We could get going in the next 3 months. There's others we work 3, 4, 5 years with, where the timing's just not right. We can help, them find the right people to come in and work on their numbers, put systems in place. And honestly, it's usually not rocket science. It's just a commitment to focus on that. The process itself, Betty, I mean, once a company is ready to go, it can go quicker than what most think. We had one engagement letter that we signed in August of this past year, and we closed it December 31st. Most processes, though, take, from the time they would engage and really get going, would take 6 to 8 months.
Well, one of the things when I talk to business owners, and 21 was one of those years, I'm sure that it was a banner year. It was a huge year for people buying and selling. Mostly, there was a lot of fear. There's a lot of unknown, right? And when I tell people, when you're going to make decisions, especially like, hey, I think I'm just going to sell because this legislation is going to get passed or whatever. There's indicators out there in the market that tell you to not knee-jerk react, And so I tell them, I get it that the stock market was 37,000 and now it's 36 and it's going to 35 something. That's not what you make your entire decision on. Your consumer price index, your interest rates, what is government in keeping it post? Tax does play a role of how is that going to affect my buy or my sell. But when you're making a decision of a lifetime business or hard work and you took the risk, there are so many factors that come into play before you just go make a decision that it's time, and I can't emphasize that enough. And in talking with you over the years, and certainly with Randy, Randy Gerber, it's a great time to sell almost always. You have those years, but there's still a lot of good indicators out there, and you got to pay attention to those as well when you're making that. I'm ready now to make this decision, especially when you took the risk. You should get the reward and not make impulsive decisions. And that's why I really wanted to have Randy Gerber and Brady Ware Capital on my podcast, talking about the good side, talking about the optimism, keeping that alive. One of the reasons I'm a business owner and I'm a CPA and I do what I do is because when the marketplace in this country works, the world works. And when employers can have employees, that means they're provision for households that form our communities. So it all plays a role, and there's all kinds of things you should be looking at as you're making these decisions. So I know if you have questions and follow-up and would like to get to know Cliff Bishop and Brady Ware Capital a little bit more, Cliff, can you kind of direct us to the website as to where they can find you and your email?
Sure. The website is www.bradywarecapital.com. And there's also a link from the main Brady Ware site. My email is cbishop@bradyware.com. That's CBISHOP @bradyware.com. And my direct number is 937-913-2538. And I know if you want to contact Betty, she'll be gracious enough to put us in contact as well. So really enjoy talking to entrepreneurs. And look, even if you're not ready to sell a business, you just want to talk about potential valuations and what's going on in the market. We really enjoy those conversations. We're happy to spend the time and we'd love to talk to you. I personally enjoy hearing the stories that entrepreneurs have about how they've built their business and what they want to accomplish. So I really hope we get make some contacts and can help people make some good decisions.
Great. Cliff, again, thank you so much for taking time today, for joining my audience, and everybody, keep moving forward, keep your optimism out there, and grow that business. It's the one thing that you control every day, right? For the most part. So buying and selling is something you need to be thinking about, and all as an entrepreneur. And I know that Brady Ware Capital can get you there. Have a great day. Inspiring Women has been presented by Brady Ware Company. As your career advancements continue, your financial opportunities will continue to grow. Be prepared. Visit bradyware.com to find out more about the accounting services that can assist you to that next level. All this, plus more about the podcast, can be found in the show notes for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Feel free to share this show or give us a review. Remember, inspiration is powerful. Whose life will you be changing?